In the year 1922, a man killed his own wife with the help of his son, and disposed her body in a dried well. His son later becomes a thief after fleeing with her 5 months pregnant girlfriend. Unfortunately, the two later died. 8 years later, the same man is seen wandering through the streets of Omaha. He enters a hotel and takes a look around before sitting down to write a confession he committed in 1922. Though it is a one-sided story, since he is the one narrating it. But let's see why he killed his wife. The movie centers around a farmer named Wilfred James, his wife, Arlette James, and their 15-year-old son, Henry James. The year is 1922 and Wilfred appears to be a very disturbed man. It turns out his wife Arlette wants to move to Omaha and start a business since she is not into farming like him. Arlette inherited 100 acres of land from his father who just died recently. Wilfred, on the other hand, owns 80 acres of land and wants them to combine their land, until when their son is of age to inherit them. Arlette, who is not into farming, desires to sell her portion of land to the Farmington Corporation. One day while taking their supper, Wilfred asks Arlette what she plans to do with the money she receives from the sale of the land. She proposes relocating to Omaha and starting a dress business. On the other hand, Henry is opposed to the motion and sides with his father. Wilfred is frustrated. He suggests to buy the land from her and pay her back over the course of 8 years. Arlette chuckles at his suggestion, saying little money coming in is worse than none. She then offers another suggestion. She wants them to sell both of their properties, split the proceeds, and then divorce. Wilfred inherently opposes, when he learns that he would be separated from Henry. Wilfred then requests that he be given some time to think about it. He thought of seeking the help of the law, but his recent hate for Arlette prevents him from doing so. The next morning, he tells her that he has come to a conclusion that she will not sell the land. He later finds Henry and his girlfriend, Shannon, in the basement that day. Wilfred decides to take advantage of Henry and Shannon's relationship. He plants a feud on Henry against his mother, informing him that Arlette wants to separate him from his father and his girlfriend. Wilfred then tries to convince Henry to assist him in murdering his own wife. During dinner that night, Henry lashes out at Arlette and orders her to leave so they can be a family again. Arlette insists that opening a dress shop is her business idea and that no one will stop her. She also reveals that she had talked to a lawyer and he affirmed that since the piece of land belongs to her, she can do anything with it, and that she will sell it and make sure Henry goes with her to Omaha. The next day, Wilfred convinces Arlette that after some thought, he is ready to accompany her to Omaha, and that he will also try to work in the city as a mechanic, adding that Henry convinced him. Arlette is overjoyed. She simply cannot believe his words. For the first time in a long time, she passionately kisses Wilfred. That night, she celebrates by getting herself drunk in front of Wilfred and Henry. Wilfred takes her upstairs and places her in bed. Then he seeks Henry for help. Henry wishes there was another way, but Wilfred persuades his son while insisting that killing Arlette is the only way for him and Shannon to be together. Later, when Henry enters a room, he finds Wilfred clinching a knife. Henry suggests using a pillow, but Wilfred tells him that would be too slow and with lots of struggle. They enter the room with Wilfred holding a knife and Henry with some cloth. Henry sobs and bids his mother farewell before suffocating her with the cloth. Wilfred then fatally slits her neck and eventually kills his wife with the assistance of his son. After that, Wilfred and Henry wraps Arlette's body with the bed sheet and together they take her lifeless body outside. Henry collapses before they can dispose the body while saying the well is not a grave for his mother. Wilfred is forced to complete the task on his own. He drags Arlette's body and dumps it into the dried well. After that, Wilfred and his son began cleaning the house to remove the blood stains. Wilfred also gathers the bloodied mattress and some of Arlette's belongings, then toss them into the well. When he opens the well cover, he discovers that Arlette's body is infested with rats. One even makes its way into her mouth. This terrifies him and he hurls the baggage at them, hoping to move them away from her body. Unfortunately for him, it won't be his last time seeing rats like this. Wilfred then fakes a narrative about Arlette's disappearance. He claims that his wife might have fled in the middle of the night to somewhere unknown to them. A few days later, the Farmington Company's lawyer arrives in search of Arlette. Wilfred sells the narrative to him. However, the lawyer wasn't convinced about why she would pass up such a fantastic opportunity considering the amount that was offered. He requests Wilfred to allow him go in the house and check for himself, but Wilfred declines. Wilfred then tells his son that he must devise a plan to fill the well very soon since someone can easily spot Arlette's body. So he brings a cow and has it stand on the well's lid. The cover collapses with the weight of the cow and falls to the bottom, but it still moves, so Wilfred shoots it to death. He and Henry then muddied the mice-infested well. The lawyer summons the town sheriff to their home that day. He explores the house to ensure that Arlette is not being hidden by the family. Wilfred displays some of Arlette's clothes and possessions to him. They even encourage him to look at the buried well as he prepares to leave. Wilfred claims that summer was the finest for the farm's crops to grow, and he attributes this to Satan rewarding him for his evil activities. Shannon is concerned about Henry's unusual behavior. Wilfred is informed of her concerns. She suspects he is having affairs with other girls at his school. Wilfred tells her that this is not true. She then expresses her regret for Arlette's disappearance. Later the same night, the farm's cows began making lots of noise. Forcing Wilfred to take his gun and walk out to check, he discovers the cow shed overrun with rats. They had entered through a pipe leading to the well. He inserts some piece of cloth into the pipe to obstruct it. When he returns to the house, he sees Arlette's shadow, but it is Henry. The next day, he completely covers the pipe. While writing his confession, he sees the wall of the room cracking, and a rat is seen coming out while others are struggling. The following day, Henry arrives at the house with news Shannon is expecting his first child. Henry wishes to marry, but Wilfred informs him that he is too young. He brings up his mother, telling Wilfred that she would have given him money to run away with Shannon. He adds that if he would have sold the land like Arlette advised, they could not have the money problem. Harlan Cottery, Shannon's father, visits them. He is the most prosperous farmer in town. Wilfred is envious of his new blue Cadillac and home water pipeline, but he is most envious of his faithful wife. Harlan intends to place Shannon in a Catholic home in Omaha until she gives birth, at which point she will place the kid for adoption. He adds that in doing that, he is expected to pay $300 for the stay. Aware of Wilfred's low standing, he insists that he pay at least $75. He also informs Wilfred that he should have allowed Arlette to sell the 100 acres to Farmington. If he had done that, he would have had money and a lovely wife. Henry, who hears this from his father, refuses to send Shannon away. He suggests to Wilfred that they flee and that they might also go away with what they did to Arlette. Wilfred declines, telling his son that he should not think of running away with a 5 months pregnant woman. This makes Henry angry and screams at his father, stating he can't tell him what to do. He then blames Wilfred for his mother's death and informs him that there is an alternative. When Henry goes to school the next day, Wilfred searches Arlette's possessions for any money she may have saved. He discovers $20 inside her hat. The next day, he drives to a bank to obtain a $35 loan to pay Harlan Cottery. The bank manager suggests to Wilfred that he does not need $35 but $750 for mortgage since he has enough assets. Wilfred maintains that all he is will be his sons and then adds that he will think about it. He stays for a while, but when he walks out he finds his truck is gone. He then sees a note from Henry saying he fled with Shannon and took the truck. He tells Wilfred in the note that he knows he can send the sheriff after them, but if he does, he will expose the truth about his mother's death. Later that night, Wilfred is seen reading a book, but the memory of Arlette's death keeps haunting him. He is startled when a drop of blood drops on the book he is reading. He looks up to discover that it is simply his leaking ceiling. He finds it hard to sleep that night. The next day, the town sheriff informs Wilfred of a robbery in a nearby town. He suspects Henry might have been involved. Wilfred, on the other hand, assures him that his child is a gentleman and would never do something like this. The following day, Wilfred obtains a $750 mortgage he needed to repair the roof leak, but more importantly, he needed to work to keep himself sane during the winter. When he returns home with the money, a rat bites his palm, seriously injuring it. He furiously steps on the rat and crushing on the floor. He then scrubs the floor with his other hand to remove the blood off the floor. He removes the bandage from his palm to reveal an infected wound. He walks through the snow to his car, intending to visit the doctor, but he has difficulty starting it with just one hand. He returns to the house in despair. The door begins to crack and slam repeatedly. He looks through it and sees the ghost of his wife standing outside the house. He runs inside, terrified, and peers through the hallway door. She is approaching him. Wilfred then dashes into the basement. He slips down the steps and as he looks up, he sees hundreds of rats and Arlette's sick body pouring through the entrance. The rats approach Wilfred and encircle him. He is confronted by Arlette's spirit. Wilfred claims she told him secrets that only a dead woman could know. She informs him that Henry has turned into a robber in the city. He was able to smuggle Shannon out of the Catholic home. They became known as the Sweetheart Bandits and killed several individuals. She informs him about Shannon being shot and her child dying. Wilfred begs her to stop and simply kill him. He asks her to cut his throat as he slit hers, but she intends to make him suffer even more. She tells him how Henry discovered Shannon dead while sleeping and subsequently took his life by shooting himself. Wilfred listens to her hint about his son's death, whom he treasured the most in anguish. Wilfred visits a doctor a few days later to get his wound treated. He is told the infection has spread so far that it must be amputated. The sheriff informs him that they discovered the body of a woman in a ditch who is believed to be Arlette. Wilfred agrees with the story. After a few days, Henry's body is transported to the village by rail. When Wilfred arrives at the station, he is immediately surrounded by reporters who also confirm his son's death while asking him questions about Henry. He gets terrified upon seeing Henry's body in such a deteriorated state. Like his wife, rats had taken up residence all over Henry's body. He gives Henry's lifeless body a passionate kiss, then places an order for the most elaborate coffin possible. He says that no father should be forced to say farewell to his son, but if anyone deserves it, it is him, as he has done wrong to others. Wilfred makes an offer to sell Arlette's 100 acres of land to Shannon's father. But Shannon's father tells him that his land is cursed, and that he should leave his place and never come back. Since he is out of other options, he settles for a low price when selling it to a cattle company. Wilfred then embarks to Omaha to start a new life, where he quickly finds employment of moving pallets. By the time he finishes writing this confession, there were already many rats in the hotel room, others walking freely on the bed. Then comes three spirits of Arlette, Henry and Shannon, standing right in front of him. Henry is seen here carrying the knife that Alfred used to kill Arlette with. Then the screen goes black with Wilfred saying, "In the end we all get caught," marking the end of this movie. Subscribe for more scenes recap like this. Until next time, have a great day.